Hello, friends. Gigi here. Today, we are going to do a slow flow yoga class and we are going to be focusing on hip openers. So, you might like to have a blanket and a block ready to help support you in some of the hip openers, especially the pigeon pose. So, I'll offer some modifications for poses that might seem challenging and we'll take it from there. So, here we go. Heading back to my mat. So gathering the props that you might like to use and then coming onto your backs on your mat. So let's start today with our knees bent and our feet grounded. Let yourself start settling into the mat. Soften your abdomen, your stomach. Start to notice your breath. Allow your shoulders to roll back and down. Maybe you'd like to have the palms of your hands facing upward, helping to roll those shoulders more open and open your hearts. Continue to unite with your breath. Allow your jaw to release. Feel your face relax. Bring your awareness into your physical being. And that remember throughout this practice, we want to stay in touch with our bodies, listening to them, doing things that feel good. So treating yourself with loving kindness throughout your practice. And as we bring that awareness to our physical being, let's also bring our awareness to the here and now, the present moment. We try and live in the present moment, not only on our yoga mats, but in our daily life. So taking that present moment awareness with you throughout your day. Being present in all your interactions with people and beings. So we're going to begin to add movement to our practice. And I'd like you to begin by just bringing your knee up and in, maybe your right knee we can start with, and just hug that into your chest. And then we'll start to draw some circles with that leg, getting into your right hip. Let's make these circles nice and slow. So as I mentioned, this is going to be a hip opening class. Let's go the other way with those circles. So it's said that we hold a lot of emotional baggage in our hips. So through this practice, maybe we'll be able to release some of that. Let's draw that knee back into the chest. And then we're going to take that right foot and place it in front of the left knee and let it kind of rest there. Continuing to warm up the hip region and the low back, we're going to start to pick that leg position up and bring it in toward us. That's going to be our out breath. And then on our in breath, we'll slowly bring it back and plant that foot. Again, exhale as you bring it in towards you. And inhale as you lower. Keep pressing your low back into the floor. Exhale, drawing it in. Inhale, release. Last time, exhale, draw it in. And inhale, lower, and go ahead, take it off and plant the foot. Nice. Let's check out hip 2. So we'll bring the left knee toward us for a hug first. Then we'll begin drawing the circles. So in my warm-ups, I like to do a lot of breath with movement or movement with breath, whichever way you like to say it. Go the other way. I don't like to do any kind of long holding until our bodies are really ready for it. Let's go ahead, bring that knee back in toward you. And then we're going to take that foot and place it in front of the right knee. We're going to do our lifting again. So engage your abdominals by pressing your navel down toward the earth. And on an out breath, lift that leg position in toward you. And then inhale, keep pressing the low back as you lower. Feel your core working. Exhale, coming in again. Inhale, release. We'll do this 2 more times, breathing out as those legs come toward you. Breathing in as we lower. Last one, out breath. And in breath. Awesome. Let's take that leg off, plant the foot, and we'll bring both knees up toward our heart center now. We'll stay right here in Apanasana. We're going to get into the hamstrings a little bit. So on an in-breath, let's start to extend our legs up toward the sky. And on your out-breath, go ahead and bend. Again, inhale with your extension and exhale back toward you. 2 more, breathing in and out. 1 more, inhale and exhale. Stay here and go ahead and rock yourself from side to side in this position. And then eventually, let's go ahead and roll to one side. Take your time mindfully bringing yourself up. And we are going to meet on our seats. So we'll have our legs out front in Dandasana. I see a little light blinking on my screen, so I'm just going to quick do a little check-in here. Oh, silly me. It's my candle. All right. So here we are back in Dandasana. So just sitting with the legs long and out in front of us. Now, if you like, you could grab your blanket and prop it up under your sits bones. I know a lot of people do that, so feel free to go ahead and grab your blanket and get situated. And we're going to take a very gentle fold forward. We're not going to hold it for a long time. And then we're going to slowly bring it back up. We'll do this a couple more times. So we'll exhale as we start to hinge from the hips. Let your upper body be soft. And then inhale, engage your core, come back up to neutral spine. Again, exhale, gently coming forward. And inhale, we're back. So there's lots of ways to do the pigeon pose. We did one just now lying on our back when we rested our foot in front of our knee. We're going to try that again. So taking your right foot and leg, bend the knee and just set that foot, if you can, above the knee. So closer to you, kind of on your thigh. Yep. So again, we're kind of in a pigeon position. Now, if you want to take it maybe just a little bit deeper, you start to reach your hands back behind, kind of lean into your hands and arms as you bring the extended leg in and bend it. Now, the more you bring that leg and foot toward you, the more of a stretch you're going to find here in the seated pigeon pose. Now, slowly slide the bottom leg back out, and we're going to pick that leg up and just do a little bit of rocking here. So some of you may have played with Rock the Cradle, where you take that foot and kind of put it inside your elbow, take the other one around, and you almost feel like you're rocking a baby. Now, not everybody can get up into this, and that's okay. That's why we also have this position. All right, let's take that one out and we'll check out our other hip. So we're going to bend the left leg, bring it up first. And hey, if this is enough for you, then just hang out right here. If you want to join me by reaching back, sliding that bottom foot in, bringing it into wherever you're feeling a nice stretch. And we'll just take a couple breaths here, not a real long hold, just enough to feel what's happening in your hip. And then starting to bring that forward. Once again, if it's available to you and you'd like to kind of pick that up and give it a little bit of a rock, or if you want to try the cradle, bringing it in and rocking it, wherever you're at is great. And let's go ahead and let it rest. And then extend that back out long. We'll do a few more Dandasana folds with the breath. So as you exhale, gently start to ease forward. Feel your low back, feel your hamstrings. On your inhale, coming back up. Exhale, let's fold forward again. Inhale, rising up. One more time. Exhale, hinge and fold. And inhale. We're back. All right, we're going to transition to table pose now on our hands and knees. And we're going to do a little cow cat because cow cat is a great warm up for many parts of the body: head, neck, shoulders, spine, and pelvic region. So make sure you feel it in all those areas. On our in-breath, we let the belly release down, letting the pelvic region tip up and tipping your head up, but listening to your head-neck region. Exhale, reverse it, pull the belly up, round and tuck. Let's flow with the breath, inhaling back into the cow and exhaling to the cat. Keep it going as you flow with your breath between the cow pose and the cat pose. Noticing where you're feeling this in your physical being. What are you waking up? One more to each of those positions. And then go ahead and land in your table pose. From here, we're going to bring our right leg up between the hands for lunge. And we're going to do a practice called the rocking horse. So the back knee is going to stay grounded and the toes are untucked. And we're going to slowly start to travel back using our arms and hands for balance. Now, my leg is sliding back with me, the one that's extended. I'm sitting back a bit and hinging forward. Now, do the best you can with this one because it's kind of challenging. And then go ahead, rock back up to the top. Go past what is normally your lunge so that that front knee is coming forward over the toes. And you're feeling a nice stretch up the front of the left hip, the leg that's extended. And then we'll rock it back again. So we're just going to move back and forth a few times, hence calling it the rocking horse. If you feel like staying in one of the positions a little longer, go ahead. You're your own best teacher. So whatever's feeling good for you in this moment, you go for it. Eventually, we're all going to land back in our traditional lunge where you'd like that front knee to be stacked over the ankle. The spine is long. And from this lunge, we're going to find our first plank. So you can choose to keep your plank elevated, or if you'd like to bring your knees to the mat, go for it. Let's lower to the earth, untuck our toes, gently rise up into your cobra back bend. Let your shoulders drop down. Let's exhale to the earth. Inhale up to table. And on the exhale, let's come into our first downward facing dog. You might want to walk it out by pedaling your feet. I can tell my puppy dog's been up here because there's a little bit of dog hair on my mat. All right, let's come to table. And how about a pose of the child? Let's get into those shoulders. Oh, yeah. Inhale, we're back up at our table. Guess what? We're going to bring the left leg through for lunge because we've got to do that rocking horse on our second side. So we're going to keep the back knee grounded and the toes untucked, and we're going to start traveling back. Now, I have some students who would be even right about here, and that's going to be good for them. So listen to your body. Maybe I'm walking back a little further, but maybe my body's ready for it. Maybe I'm a little more flexible. Who knows? Everybody's bodies are different. Remember, you're going to travel back and forth. So when you come up to that top end, let's go past our normal lunge until you feel a nice stretch up the front of your right hip. Aha, we're hip opening today. So on your own, again, you're just kind of traveling back and front as it feels good for your body. On the last video that I recorded, I was talking a little bit about spring, and I came up with a few more things that I love about spring. One of them is when I start to hear the sandhill cranes, which are my favorite bird. Haven't heard any yet. I might go exploring looking for some because this is the time of year to do that. Let's bring it to traditional lunge again. So walking yourself to knee over ankle, long spine. Your back knee can be up or down, whatever you choose. Once again, we're going to do a plank. So taking the left leg back, choosing if you're going to stay in full plank or bring the knees down, and then exhaling to the mat. Inhaling, rising and shining for our cobra. We're going to exhale all the way through to the downward facing dog. On this down dog, we're going to walk our feet up to our hands. Here comes Uttanasana, forward fold. Hinge from your hips, bend your knees. On an inhale, come up to a half fold. On an exhale, take it back down. On an inhale, ground through your feet. Start to rise up with a big in-breath. Gather up all the joy that you can and bring it all down into your heart. Mountain pose. And release. All right, so we're going to play with something a little bit different. You might want to block out front. Now, this is a practice that you're going to need to listen to your body and go to whatever place is going to serve you. So we're going to start with the feet and legs a little bit wider, and we're working toward the garland pose. So let's start by bending our knees and just letting our hands rest on our thighs. We've hinged forward a bit. See how that's going for you. And then maybe see if you can go a little deeper, kind of resting your forearms on your thighs. And then slowly tip forward, doing your best to kind of straighten the legs. And then tip back, drop back a little. So you're feeling like a squat pose. Go ahead, tip forward again. Keep your spine long and tip back. Now, some of you might hold on to your block and do this. So just keep coming up, straightening the legs the best you can, and then going back down. Now, each time you go down, you might try to take yourself a little deeper. Some of you might stay static, like even here, wherever you feel good. Some of you might start to go lower, depending on where you're at with your flexibility. So this is called the garland pose. And I'm taking it to a little bit deeper version just for those of you that might want to play with this. And I'm using my elbows to push my knees open, and I've got my hands in namaste. Now, I'm not advising that every person does it this way, but it's just kind of the place that you might be headed toward. When you start to come out, you might find your block and slowly start to bring yourself out. And then maybe resting those forearms back on the thighs. And then maybe the hands back on the thighs. Press into the thighs and rise up. And there we have our garland pose. Walk it out a little bit. Nice. So I'm going to move my block up more to the top part of my mat. And I've got my blanket kind of ready up there too. Let's all come to the top of our mat. And we're going to do some sun salutations, but we're going to add some variations into them. So standing in your mountain at the top of your mat. Let's inhale. Angel those arms up to the sky. Let your hands unite. And on your exhale, bring it down to a forward fold again. On an inhale, rise up to the half fold. On an exhale, bringing it back down toward the earth. Let's take our right leg back for a lunge. And maybe let that right knee meet the mat. Untuck the toes. So we're going into our lizard pose here. So since the right leg is the one that's extended back, we're going to take the left hand and arm and move it to the inside of the left foot and leg. You might even walk that left foot over to the left so you've got some space beneath you. If you're feeling like this is too low, you could bring in a blanket, or you could bring in your block and kind of rest up on top of your block. So listen to your body. Some of you might choose to take the lizard a little deeper. So for that, you would maybe start to come down on your outside elbow and forearm. If you try that and it doesn't feel good, come on back up to your hand, right? So you choose where you want to be. Now, some people might even take the inside elbow and forearm and bring that down as well. This is getting a little deep, so feel free to be in the lizard wherever it's going to serve your body. Another fun one is to take the left hand and maybe bring it around the left ankle and foot. So right now we're getting a really great inner thigh groin stretch plus up the front of that right hip. Let's start to make our way back up to a taller version of that lizard. And then take the left hand and arm back to the outside. Tuck the back toes and start to bring the left leg back for your plank. Your shoulders are over your wrists. You're tucking your belly in and up. I'm going to bring my knees down and exhale, meet the earth. On the inhale, coming up and into your cobra, letting the elbows give you a little hug. And on your exhale, here comes our downward facing doggy. To return to lunge, you might like to come to table and then bring the right leg up and through. And we're going to approach the lizard on our second side. So this time the right hand and arm moves to the inside of the right foot and leg. And again, maybe we're going to hang out right here. Maybe we're going to prop up a little higher using our block. Maybe we want to go lower. Lots of options for you to choose from. You could even bring your blanket in and come down on that. So feel free to kind of explore your options with your props, finding what serves you best. So my right side is a little tighter, so I'm choosing to stay up high on this side. So just kind of listening to my body, like you should be doing as well. Let's go ahead and bring the right hand and arm back to the other side. So bringing yourself up if you were down lower, and then coming back to more of what our traditional lunge looks like. And then we're going to step the back foot up to the front foot, and we're in forward fold again, Uttanasana. With an inhale, we're going to rise up, reach up. And with our out breath, landing at our hearts. And release. All right. The next sun salutation, we're going to build some standing poses into. So on an in-breath, we're going to reach upward, arms and hands. And on our out breath, we're coming back to forward fold. On an in-breath, we're going to rise up to a half fold. And on our out breath, we're coming back down. From this forward fold, we're going to start to step the left leg back, and we're going to come to standing. We're going to keep walking it back as we set up our foundation to have our hips and shoulders open diagonally to the long edge. So your left hip, leg, and foot has rotated open. We're going to keep the front leg straight, but we don't want it to lock. So a locked knee is when you push it back, and that's just not a healthy place for your knee. So you're going to keep a little teeny subtle bend in it as we move into our triangle. Let's move in nice and slow today with our hands on our hips and just start to tip right diagonally like a teapot, but try and keep your spine long. Good. Let the right hand maybe slide down that leg and let your other arm be up. So we've just found our triangle pose. And on an in-breath, we're going to windmill up and go into a reverse triangle. So both triangle and reverse triangle are hip openers. Let's exhale and make our way back in to traditional triangle. And then inhale back up to the reverse. So we're working our core a little bit too here. Exhale, coming back into the triangle. Let's stay a little longer on this one. Watch your front knee. Don't let it lock. Keep it a little soft or bend it as much as you need to for this pose. Engage from your center as you inhale. Take it up to the top for one more reverse triangle. Exhale, release the arm. Let's rotate to face the long edge of our mat. And we're going to come into a wide-legged forward fold. So you're going to hinge from your hips, keeping your spine long, feeling free to bend your knees as much as you need to. Maybe you'll slide down so your forearms are kind of resting on your thighs. Maybe you stay right here. Otherwise, if you'd like to try to reach down for the floor, the earth, that's another option for you because you're listening to your body. Let's take this wide-legged fold and rotate into our front-facing lunge at the top of our mat. Feel free to lower that back knee, untuck the toes. And what we're going to be doing from here is taking the right leg back for table, and then we're going to come all the way down onto our front side. We're in our Sphinx pose, propped up on our elbows and forearms. Let's go ahead and bend our knees, bringing our feet in toward our bum. Feel your hamstrings, or quadriceps, sorry. Let it go. Maybe you're feeling both. Let's inhale, bend again, and exhale, release. Inhale, bend, and exhale, release. Nice. Now, I would like you to bend just your left leg and then rotate a little bit with your upper body to the left and look back. Now, maybe you're seeing that foot and you're going to balance on your right arm as your left hand tries to reach back. And it's okay if you don't find your foot, just reach back and look back. If you'd like to bring that foot in a little closer toward your bum, go ahead. But listen to your knee. The benefit of drawing it in is feeling a little more stretch in the front of that thigh. Let's let it go and come back around to the front, and we'll switch sides. So we'll bend the right knee. We'll rotate to the right a little bit with our upper body so that we can gaze back. And then maybe you're finding that foot or reaching back toward it. Maybe you're bringing it in a little deeper. Keep looking back. It's a nice stretch for the head neck. And let's let that go and come back around to our Sphinx. From our Sphinx, we'll slide our hands back about to shoulder area and come up to the table. And from the table, we'll find our downward facing dog. Let's walk our feet up to our hands. Here we are back in Uttanasana again, our forward fold. Inhale just up to the halfway point. And exhale, back down. Let's root through our feet. Inhale, rise all the way up. And exhale, land at your heart. All right, I am going to shift to this other end just so that I'm facing you all in the video. And we're up at the top of our mat, so feel free to switch with me if you'd like to. And we are going to add in our triangle and reverse triangle on our second side. So we'll begin with an inhale, angeling our arms up to the sky, and an exhale as we come into forward fold. This candle smells really good up here. Let's inhale up to a half. And exhale back down. So we're going to start walking the right leg back. And as we do so, we'll bring ourselves up to standing, creating the distance that we need for our triangle. The measure is kind of wrists over ankles. So that right hip has rotated open, your shoulders are over your hips. Just like on side one, let's start with our hands on the hips and start to tip left laterally into your triangle. Maybe let that left hand slide down And perhaps the right arm is up. The head is in line with your spine, so try not to let your head drop down so your ear isn't going toward your shoulder. And then engage your center, and with an inhale, we'll windmill it up through into the reverse. Just like on side one, let's exhale, come back through into the triangle, noticing the openness of your hips. Inhale, back up to the reverse. Exhale, coming in, let's stay in this triangle for just a little bit longer. Take some nice breaths. Inhale, reverse it for me one more time. Exhale, release, rotate, face the long edge. We're going to do another wide-legged fold, hands on the hips. As you find an exhale, you're hinging from those hips. Maybe you're going to hang out up high. Maybe you're dropping to those elbows and forearms. Feel free to take this wide-legged fold to whatever place is serving your body in this moment. Let's rotate this around. This time I'm rotating to the back edge because I switched sides. And we're going to let that knee come down and the toes untuck. We're going to step the left leg back for table. And once again, we're going to bring our bodies down into prone position, finding the Sphinx. So on our first side, we did one leg at a time for the bow position. On our second time, let's go ahead and bend both and keep them here. Now feel free to just hang out right here, or if you'd like to lower your chest down a little bit and then maybe try to reach back. It's okay if you're not quite finding your feet, or maybe if you just want to find one and then switch and find the other, or if you want to join me in both. Find a smile. And then gently begin to release, coming back to the Sphinx. So another thing I like about spring is waiting to see my first robin. Yep, haven't seen one yet, but I'm sure they'll be here soon. Now that bowl position was a pretty deep back bend, so we're going to want to counter that. Let's let the chest lower, the hands slide back, come up to table, and let's find a child pose. Take a couple breaths. Inhale up to your table, and let's exhale into the downward dog. We'll walk our feet up to the hands, forward bend. Let's root through our feet. Inhale, rise up, reach up. And exhale, land at your heart. All right, I'm going to step back up to the front side of my mat now. And I'm going to have my blocks and blankets kind of available to me. In this next sun salutation, we're going to add the traditional pigeon pose. So let's inhale up and exhale, forward bend. So today's practice, besides the hips, is getting into our hamstrings and our low back. Let's inhale up to a half fold. And exhale, back down. All right, we're going to take the left leg back, come down on that knee, untuck the toes. Now, we're going to be coming into the pigeon on our right side. So you might like to have your props closer to that right side. So from here, if it's available to you, you're going to start to take that right foot and slide it back toward your kind of left knee and then come down on your right knee. Then you want to center your weight here. Now, if you're like most people, under that right hip, you're going to have a little bit of a gap. Now, one thing you could do is take your block and fill that gap, but only if that kind of centers you out. If you need more than just the block, you can layer the blanket on top of your block. That would be a little much for me, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take the block out because for me, I just like my blanket, and that balances me so that I feel centered here in the upright pigeon. Now, if you already know the pigeon and want to start getting into it deeper, go ahead. But I'm going to quick show people another way to do this if that pose isn't serving you. So you can go back onto your back, cross your right foot in front of the knee, and bring the left leg up. So this is the same position that we were in the traditional, but we're on our backs instead. So if you need to move to that, please feel free to do that. Otherwise, if you want to hang with me in the traditional pigeon, you might try coming a little lower onto your elbows and forearms, letting your head neck release. If you're not using a block under your hip, you could always rest your forehead on your block. Or some of you that have more open hips might extend your arms out real long and actually come toward the earth more, resting your forehead on the mat. For me, I kind of like being propped up on my elbows and forearms. But you know, every time I do pigeon, it's a little different, just depending on how I'm feeling in that moment. So we're just taking a few breaths here into our pigeon pose. And don't worry if you're on your back doing the reclined pigeon, that is also a great stretch. It's even a pose that you can do up against the wall when you're on your back, which we did when we did a restorative practice, I think maybe last time. So let's start to come back up out of that pigeon pose. And if you were using a prop, slide it out of the way and just let your weight kind of rest over on that right hip. Now, from here, we're going to come back to the table. And we're going to draw some circles in our table just to kind of release those hips a bit. And then go the other way. And land back in your table pose. All right, so to switch our pigeon, let's see, we are going to bring our left leg up and through this time for lunge. And then if you're going to use a prop, you might want to bring it over to that left-hand side, maybe your block or your blanket. Then we'll do our best to slide the left foot back and the left knee forward. And then just kind of adjust yourself until you feel balanced and centered. And then decide, how much of a wedge do I have? Do I want to pull in any kind of a prop? And then do I want to take it any deeper? Coming down maybe to rest, almost like we're in the Sphinx pose with our upper body, but we're letting the head, neck release and relax. Once again, it's a-okay with me if you want to come onto your back for this pigeon pose, just crossing that left foot in front of the right knee with those legs extended up toward the sky. We'll take some breaths here on the second side of our traditional pigeon pose. So another thing I wait for in the spring is to hear the froggies start singing. That's usually, I think, more toward April. All the signs of rebirth. A fresh start, a new beginning. Let's go ahead and from wherever you're at in your pigeon, start to work your way back upward. Maybe you already are upward. Second step is, if you've got any kind of a prop, you're going to want to take it out of the way and then just let your weight kind of roll over to that left side. And then from here, we're going to find that table again. And one more time, we're going to start to draw circles with our whole body. It's kind of a nice release for those hips. Go the other way. And land back in your table. And then shift back into child. Let's go ahead, rise back up to our table, and you can have a seat on your seat. All right, how we doing? The rest of our practice is going to be on our backs, so I'm going to let you go ahead and get settled on your back as I make my way down. Let's have our knees bent and our feet grounded. And just allow your back body to settle in. So we're going to move into half of Happy Baby by bringing our right knee in toward our chest. Then using your right hand, draw that right leg open over to the right, and then start to open the lower leg up so the bottom of your foot is kind of looking up at the ceiling. Now, right now, we're just holding on behind that right thigh. We're bringing that knee down toward the sides of our ribs. And while we're holding it, why don't we just rotate that right ankle around a little bit? And go the other way. Holding the half happy baby. And then starting to bring that half happy baby over your body, bend the knee. We're going to take that right leg and put it on top of the left in a cross-legged position. And we're going to move into reclined cow face. So engage your core and keeping the legs crossed, bring that position in toward you. Now, maybe you'll just kind of rest your hands on your knees. Maybe you'll reach for your shins, one hand on each. Some of you might take it a little further to your ankles or feet. And think about your knees kind of facing more up to the sky and your feet coming down more toward the floor. Let's try to keep our low back pressed into the earth so we're not causing any discomfort in that low back. And just take a couple of breaths here. My feet are a little bit cold, so I'm using my hands to warm them up. And then on your own, slowly start to untangle all of that. Hug your knees in, and then eventually plant both feet. All right, let's try half of happy baby on the left. So we'll bring that left knee in toward the chest. Then we'll draw that left leg open to the side. We'll start to open the lower leg again. We're drawing down on behind that left thigh and knee. Again, maybe you're rotating that left ankle a little bit while we're holding our half happy baby pose. Rotate it both ways. Perhaps just hang out with it here. Some of you may even reach up and kind of hold on to the outside of the foot. Let's start to bring that half happy baby back into neutral center, bend the knee. Now, just like on our first side, we're going to take that leg and cross it over the top of the right. We'll engage our core as we lift that leg position up and in. Now, if you're hanging on to the knees, that's fine. Do the best you can. If you decide to slide the hands down the lower leg and go further, that's an option. Let's keep the back of our head grounded. Try and keep the upper body relatively grounded. And then what about the low back? So if I draw my feet too far down, I feel my low back kind of come into a funny position that isn't very comfortable. So I like to just kind of keep it to a place where my low back can stay grounded or pressed into the mat. And again, this is a reclined cow face legs. There's also cow face arms. On your own, let's slowly start to untangle. Again, hug your knees into your chest and then go ahead and just plant your feet on the mat. So since we did both sides of our half happy baby, I'd like to put it together. So once again, we're going to bring the knees in toward us. Holding on to your kneecap, start to draw the legs apart. Slide the hands behind the thighs. Again, opening the lower legs so that maybe your feet are kind of smiling up at the sky, the bottoms of your feet, the soles of your feet. Drawing your knees down toward the side ribs. And choosing if you're going to hang on here behind the thighs and knees, or if maybe you've decided to move up to your calves or your ankles, but you're still keeping your head, neck, and shoulders grounded. Some people might even reach up to the outer edges of their feet. We're continuing, no matter where we're at, to draw those knees down toward the side ribs. If you feel like rocking your happy baby from side to side, go ahead and monkey around with that. And then we'll go ahead and land here at center neutral. We'll start to close up the happy baby, hug the knees in, and once again, planting the feet. So I think it would feel really nice right now to release the hips with our windshield wipers. So we are going to open our arms out to the sides. And if you like, you can walk the feet maybe just a little bit wider apart. And then we'll allow our legs to release toward the earth on the right. And then maybe roll your head to the left. As you find an in-breath, bring everything back to neutral. And as you find your out-breath, switch sides. So now your legs are left and your head is right. Breathe in as you come through center. Breathe out. Let's switch again. Legs right, head left. Inhale. Come on back to center. Exhale. Legs are left, head is right. Inhale, back at center. Let's breathe out. Take the legs right one more time, the head left, and just surrender here. Take a few breaths. Another thing I enjoy about spring is when you start to see some of your perennials popping up out of the ground, like maybe your daffodils or tulips, some of those early springers. Come on back to center. Now let's let the legs go left and the head go right. I think I saw a few greens of my lilies starting to try to pop through yesterday. And what about those hostas? Those are kind of early springers. Let's go ahead, bring everything back to neutral. Bring those arms in alongside you. From here, we're going to root through or ground through our feet, lift our hips, and come up into a bridge. On the exhale, we're going to lower. So we're into our releases if you haven't noticed. Inhale, we're rising again. And exhale. On the next bridge, let's take it up with our in-breath and stay here. Continue to breathe. And then if you like, you can join me with arms overhead, but that's optional. So this is a nice release for the fronts of our hips. What about our quadricep muscles? Shoulders. Slowly begin to bring everything back home. Let's come into Apanasana, bringing the knees to the chest, holding on to your kneecaps, drawing some circles up on the ceiling. Go ahead, change the direction that you're drawing your circles. And then give yourself one final hug. Plant one foot at a time. So from here, I'm going to have you get set up for Shavasana. It'll probably be about a 5-minute Shavasana today because I have a little bit of a reading that I would like to share with you while you're resting in Shavasana. So go ahead and get yourself cozy, lying on your back, maybe putting a support under your knees or under your head, or maybe you want to even cover up with your blanket. So whatever is going to feel best for you in this moment. If you prefer not to be lying down, you can come into Sukhasana or easy seated pose and just sit with your eyes closed and kind of relax here in a more meditative maybe position. So whatever you like. So as you're continuing to settle in, I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm going to share with you. So some of you might know the author Caroline Myss, and that's Myss. She's written a number of books, and right now she's doing a series online called The Power of Love Over the Love of Power. I listened to the first hour presentation, and there's going to be 6 more that follow it that I actually registered for. The first hour was free, and it was so amazing that I decided to follow through with the rest of her course. So in the hour that she spoke, I took a bunch of notes because it was so wonderful. And then I did a summary of my notes of what she shared during her first hour of this segment called The Power of Love Over the Love of Power. So continue to settle in wherever you're at. Surrender your physical being. Find your breath. And just relax. Breathe. Let go. We are living in a potentially transforming time. The past year has been like one we've never known. There's been much chaos and division. There has been more fear than love. Now is our time to channel love, because love is the fuel of miracles. This kind of love is love beyond a personal love that you might feel for your spouse or your family. This love is a cosmic love with no restrictions on who receives this love, no discrimination on who we share this love with. Every thought and action we have is within our power. How are we choosing to use this power? I feel we are being motivated by an external crisis in our world. And this motivation is to share our power of love in choices that help support others. Now is a time for a collective rebalancing of loving, healing power that needs to happen globally, but begins with each one of us individually. It's a great calling for all of us now to open our hearts wide and attune to serving others. We can do this through invisible acts of power, smiling at a stranger, opening a door for someone, making small talk with your cashier at the grocery store, making each person feel important, acknowledged. How can we each individually use the gift of our life to help transform the world into a better place? Knowing that we're not just here for ourselves, but we're here to serve others as well. How can we choose the power of love over the love of power? How will you choose to use your power of love? So feel free to rest a little longer in your Shavasana if that's what your being is calling you to do. I am going to put closure to the class, but again, feel free to rest as long as you like. Bringing hands together at our heart center. Let's honor our practice. Let's honor all people and beings and go out and share the power of our love. Namaste. Thank you for joining me on this practice. I hope you enjoyed our hip openers. Bye-bye.